You want it to be one way.
What?
You want it to be one way.
Man, I don't
You
know
want it
what
to be
you...
one
Man,
way.
stop! Stop saying that.
But it's the other way.
Yup. It's your boy Claymore Rain. This ATP Combat Media Show. Welcome one, welcome all. What up to my subscribers? If this is the first time you're seeing one of these segments, I do welcome you to also subscribe. Hit that bell icon so you get all alerts when we're dropping this content. This week, Errol Spence, Victor Conte. Shout out to manager Marty, who had an interview this week with Victor Conte. And if you guys aren't familiar with Victor Conte, do your Googles, but I'll just give you a quick little briefing. Some years back, Victor Conte was in the midst of a PED scandal where he was found guilty and for helping athletes use performance enhancement drugs. He was convicted, did a little bit of time, came out, but since then he's the head of a company called SNAC, SN as in Nancy, AC. It's basically a supplement company, and he's been helping a lot of athletes, specifically boxers, in preparing, and the supplements are supposed to help them, heal faster and help them with when they're conditioning themselves or they're working out, help them to, be in better condition. Some people would like to say because it's Victor Conte who's actually coming out with this supplement that it has, they want to call it steroids, but ultimately the athletes who are using the supplements are not popping on any type of urinalysis or blood test. Victor Conte is very big on being an advocate for a lot of testing for athletes. He's open, like a open book, letting everybody know, please test my products, please test the athletes that are using my products. These products are not steroids. He's a scientist basically and understands how to work with supplements and the way the human body works and how to get his athletes to you get the potential out of their body, pretty much, right? So fast forward, manager Marty's basically, since the Terrence Crawford Errol Spence fight, been kind of, I don't want to throw him under the bus, but I don't think I'm throwing him under the bus to say that he has been focused on a narrative surrounding issues or potential issues with Terrence Crawford and anybody else who's using SNAC potentially being under the magnifying glass or under suspicion of using performance enhancing drugs. Although there's been nothing to validate any of that except for their affiliation with Victor Conte, who was convicted years back on helping athletes use performance enhancement drugs. So outside of that, there's been no evidence that any of the athletes on SNAC have been doing anything illegal or using any performance enhancement drugs that are illegal, right? So ultimately, manager Marty is able to get an interview with Victor Conte, and through the interview, Victor Conte is explaining how the process works, but he spoke about something very specific, which we're going to speak about tonight. And he was speaking about Errol Spence, and he wanted to put out some information saying that basically what he was aware of, and this is coming from Victor Conte, is that a few days before the weigh-ins, let's say about 5 days, just for argument's sake, I believe Blue Blood said it was on the 20th, Blue Blood Sports, and shout out Blue Blood, who said that it was like the 25th, and the fight was on the 29th. So let's say 4 to 5 days prior to the weigh-ins, Errol Spence was in the mountains in Las Vegas running, probably trying to cut weight, trying to, do his last bit to cut weight, make sure that he made weight. But Victor Conte commented on that the way Errol Spence came in to work in the mountains, which was about 8,000 feet above sea level, that if he didn't do it the proper way, which was acclimating to the area before he actually started to, put stress on himself physically, that he could possibly suffer from something called altitude sickness. And altitude sickness, as he describes it, would give you a lot of the symptoms, and it would have is potentially a reason why Errol Spence looks the way he does. It'll make you look bloated. It'll swell you up. You'll basically have flu symptoms, things of that nature. And I think a lot of us who saw Errol Spence, it did kind of look like he was under the weather, to say the least, right? So now what's going on right now throughout the boxing space is that, wow, we know what it is. Keeping in mind that when Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford had their fight, and obviously everybody saw it was a one-sided affair that happened inside that ring, that everybody believed something was either wrong with Errol, or that Terrence Crawford, who was being blamed for tampered gloves, potentially using PED, anything under the sun, I think that they could put on Terrence Crawford, they were trying to put it on him. Matter of fact, very rarely was any of the conversation focused around what Errol Spence could have probably done better or did wrong before he went in the fight. It was mostly focused on Terrence Crawford pretty much doing some undermining thing to undermine the match, and I guess that's the only way he'd be able to beat Errol Spence. So putting a question mark on asterisk on the fight for Terrence Crawford, keeping in mind, of course, that no actual sanctioning body or commission or any type of organization that is put there to regulate what's happening in boxing found anything wrong at all, or anything to even be suspicious about how that fight happened. But as far as the fans outside the ring, as far as some of the content creators outside of the ring, they came up with many different scenarios as to where maybe Terrence Crawford was involved in some sort of foul play one way or the other about how the fight happened. Well, now that the media and the boxing space has a hold of this story, well, everybody is right back to square one, basically looking like they're trying to take away credit from Terrence Crawford, saying that clearly now that we have a scientist who, by the way, Victor Conte did not diagnose him of this. He's done no test on him. He's saying, just based off of visual, what he knew that Errol Spence did before the fight and the way Errol Spence did it, he was just saying the probability is pretty high that this could be the case scenario as to why, as far as reasoning behind why Errol Spence may have looked the way he did. Well, regardless, the social media space is running wild with it. Hence, I'm here covering it as well, right? And, give my reaction and my thoughts on it. Here are my thoughts. Ultimately, people, boxing match and, athletic competition is something that's has layers to it, right? And what do I mean by layers? You may see what you see as far as a day of let's say game day. On game day, you see the players on the field, or you see the boxers in the ring, and that's what you see. What you don't necessarily get that front seat to go see, that you don't buy tickets to see, is the preparation that these athletes are going through in order to get ready to go ahead and compete for the shows that you guys are buying tickets and pay-per-views to see. Needless to say, or maybe I do need to say, that the practice, the preparation, the conditioning, the nutrition, everything that's happening outside of the ring is a big, huge, probably the biggest influence on what's happening inside of the ring. So why am I saying this? I'm saying that no matter how Errol Spence looked on that match, whether he looked depleted, whether he looked like he wasn't there, whether he wasn't throwing the jab as much as he should have, whether he wasn't throwing the hook, whether his defense was flawed, whether he was lethargic, whether he was overzealous, maybe he didn't commit, maybe he didn't work out, whatever it is that he went through, it's his responsibility and his team's responsibility to prepare their fighter, and for Errol Spence to prepare himself to meet up on a selected, agreed upon night to showcase everything he's been working on prior to him getting in the ring. Same thing for Terrence Crawford. There's no excuses once the match happens, because once the match is happening, both fighters are agreeing that they're both ready, that there's nothing holding them back, that they are 100% ready to compete. So whatever happens at the end of that fight is a result of lack of or preparation. So On one side of the argument, Errol Spence wasn't ready, is clearly what everybody's trying to say, even though Errol Spence himself has said nothing to support any of these arguments that are going on with the media space or with the content creators that are pushing this narrative. He have said nothing to confirm or validate that. As a matter of fact, on top of not saying nothing to confirm that, he's actually made it clear from the night he lost that fight that there are no excuses, that he has no excuses. And he said if he did have any excuses, he still wouldn't make any excuses. And these situations sometimes come out and they start to make the fighter look bad, right? When you have content creators who are supposedly big supporters of Errol Spence, who are making excuses for Errol Spence, give him all these scenarios as to why he wasn't ready when he's not even, co-signing any of this. You guys make it look like he's doing it, and then what's going to happen? You'll have fanatics on the other side of the street, the Terrence Bud fanatics, who are going to look at Errol Spence and say, oh, he's making excuses. Meanwhile, he hasn't said anything. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, these fighters, the good fighters, the great fighters, don't make excuses. There's a rematch clause, and Errol Spence has activated that rematch clause. On that evening, when they have their fight, he'll have an opportunity to straighten whatever was crooked, to become whole, to get his get back. He will have an opportunity to do that. And that night, if he does win and he does get his get back, and Terrence Crawford is on the other side now of the conversation, we all hope, and I want to say I believe, but we will all hope that Terrence Crawford won't have any excuses either. And I would impress onto the fans of Terrence Crawford to not make excuses for him, especially if he's not making them for himself, because it doesn't help him. It doesn't help the way he's being looked at. But it's okay. You guys you're on this narrative. Now you have the answers you were looking for. Now we know that Errol Spence will come back in better shape. He knows and has learned from his mistakes that you guys have called out, and he'll be in even better shape. And maybe now the fight will sell better. Maybe now we know that Errol Spence has a fighter's chance, that it wasn't that his skills wasn't up to speed. It wasn't that he got outclassed. It wasn't that Terrence Crawford was better. It was because he was under the weather. It's because he made a mistake and tried to get ready in the wrong way, and he wasn't 100% Errol Spence. So on this fight coming up, on this rematch that they have planned, we pray that Errol Spence will be whole and will become the Errol Spence that you guys know, that you guys expected to show up to the ring. Terrence Crawford, God willing, will also be on that same frequency level. And who wins at the end of the day? We do. The fans win. You win. The fans win, because we get to see a super competitive fight. And may the best man win. Either way, we're going to see two pound for pound fighters. Some people don't consider Errol Spence a pound for pound fighter anymore, but I'm not going to say that. I'm going to still give him his props. And I'm going to consider him a pound for pound fighter. Do I put him in the top 10 pound for pound? That's another video. All right. That's another video. But he's a pound for pound fighter, and Terrence Crawford is the pound for pound fighter. So it takes two to make a thing go right. You know what I mean? You know where that's from. So, you know what I mean? Shout out to the team. It takes two to make a thing go right. So at the end of the day, if both of them show up and they both are together on where they're supposed to be, then us, the fans, we win. Outside of that, I have nothing else to add to it. There are no excuses. Once those fighters come into that ring, they come in and they're basically telling us that they're ready to go. You know, a fighter back in the day told me in every single fight, he has an injury. There's something that during the camp, he hurt himself somewhere. He's very rarely is a fighter in the ring 100%. You know, but if you're in the ring, you have enough of whatever you need to win that match. And if you win, we'll give you the praise and the glory. If you lose, you lost. We'll still give you the glory of showing up, because you're still doing something that we don't got the heart to do. We're sitting here commenting on it. But, you know, fans making excuses, I think, you know, it gets a little overrated. But listen, man, whatever floats your boat. Like I said, at this point, you guys have reason to believe that it'll be a way more competitive fight next time. Maybe that Errol will even win next time, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with selling the fight. You know, sell the fight. But I'm covering it because at the end of the day, it's out there. Content creators are pushing the narratives. Now you have a story from a scientist who gives some legitimate reasons as to why Errol Spence looked the way he did. So you're going to run with it. We'll cover it. Content is content. But, let me know what you guys think. Put in the comments. Does it make a difference? Was Errol 100% that night? Was he not 100% that night? Can Terrence beat and 100% Errol at this point? Do you guys believe that him fixing whatever it was that had him feeling that way? Do you believe that now this becomes it goes back to a 50-50 fight? Is this a fight where Errol can win and Terrence can win, or is it still the same odds? Is Terrence still the favorite to win the match? Let me know what you think. On that note, once again, salute to everybody who's been subscribing. The subscribers have been going up. The feedback has been getting great. I'm getting a lot of conversations going on with a lot of subscribers. I really appreciate you guys. If this is your first time, once again, I do encourage you to please hit that subscribe button. Remember to hit that bell icon so you can get all the content, alerts for all the content when it comes out. But on that note, enjoy your evening. Happy early New Year's. We still have some videos getting ready to come out. I have to give you my fighter of the year. I did a fighters of the year video out of my selection, but I do have a fighter of the year. Also going to be putting out a video for prospects of the year, and we'll also be getting into conversations about what we as the fan base, as boxing pundits across the board, what are we looking forward to in 2024? So you guys think about that as well. I've got a lot of things I'm looking forward to in 2024. A lot of fighters I'm looking to bring some good new chapters into their careers, and just layering up the year with great fights, a lot of great fights that can be getting done and set up. So we'll talk about that. But on that note, it's your boy Claymore Rain. This is ATP Combat Media, and at this point, we out.
They hate when you elevate. The second of losses, I'm handing them out. Yeah.